If you've flown long haul anytime recently, you've probably been on one of these two planes, the Airbus A350 and the Boeing 787. They are the absolute flagships of modern aviation, and they have totally changed the game for international travel. But which one of these titans is actually the best? Well, we're going to find out.
It's the big question, right? Airbus A350 versus the Boeing 787 Dreamliner. Both are just incredible marvels of engineering, but they've got some really key differences. And those differences can shape everything, from how comfortable you are to an airline's billion-dollar strategy. So, which one really comes out on top?
So first, let's just get a quick look at the timeline. The Boeing 787 Dreamliner, it burst onto the scene back in 2011, and it was a total game changer. Airbus followed up a few years later with the A350 in 2015. Now, that head start gave Boeing a pretty big advantage in the market, but, it also gave Airbus a chance to sit back, watch, learn, and really perfect its own design. Okay, so how are we going to settle this? We're breaking it down into a 4-round showdown. First, we'll look at it from the passenger's perspective. What's in it for you and me? Then we'll dive into performance and power. After that, we'll see it from the airline's point of view. And finally, we'll deliver the final verdict. Let's get into it.
All right, round one. Passenger comfort. This is all about how you feel in the cabin. And it's not just about legroom, right? It's about how you feel after a 12-hour flight. Are you feeling refreshed, or are you feeling completely wiped out? Now, both of these planes share some amazing comfort technology. They're both built with these lighter carbon fiber materials, and that allows for two huge things: lower cabin altitude and higher humidity. So instead of feeling like you're on a mountain at 8,000 feet, it feels more like 6,000. And the result? You get to your destination feeling a whole lot less dehydrated and tired. It's a really big deal.
But here is where things start to get different. Just look at the cabin width. The A350 is about 5.6 meters wide, while the 787 is about 5.5. Now, that might not sound like much of a difference, just about 12 centimeters or 5 inches, but trust me, it makes a massive difference, especially when you're sitting in economy.
And here's why that extra width matters so much. That wider body lets the A350 fit a standard 18-inch wide seat, even in a 9-across layout. The slightly narrower 787, in that same popular 333 configuration, has to squeeze those seats down to just 17 inches.
So it all comes down to this: 1 single inch. It might not sound like a lot, but believe me, when you're strapped in for a flight from New York to Tokyo, that little bit of extra personal space feels like everything. Plus, the A350 is famously one of the quietest jets in the sky, which just adds to the overall comfort.
But the Dreamliner has a really cool trick up its sleeve: the windows. They are huge, 65% larger than on older planes, and they have this incredible electronic dimming feature. So instead of pulling down a clunky plastic shade, you just push a button and the window tints. It's a serious wow factor that gives everyone on board a better view.
Okay, so for pure passenger comfort, it feels like the A350 has a bit of an edge. But what about performance? Let's kick off round 2 and see how these two jets stack up when we're talking about raw power and, of course, endurance.
When you look at pure range, well, it's not even a contest. The A350-1000 can fly a staggering 9,700 nautical miles. That is more than 2,000 miles farther than the most popular version of the 787. This isn't just a small advantage, it's total dominance in the ultra-long-haul game. And that incredible range isn't just a number on a page, right? It opens up a whole new world of possibilities. The A350 is the plane that makes the world's longest flight, Singapore to New York, possible. And it's the plane Qantas has chosen for its incredible Project Sunrise flights, which are going to connect Sydney to London and New York nonstop. We're talking about 20 hours in the air. Now, despite all that power and range, both of these planes are amazingly efficient. Thanks to those advanced engines and composite materials, they just sip fuel. They burn 20 to 25% less than the older planes they replaced. And that is a huge win for the airline's bottom line and for the environment. Speaking of engines, airlines buying the 787 actually have a choice, and it's a fascinating rivalry. You've got the Rolls-Royce Trent 1000, which uses a more complex design for maximum fuel efficiency, versus the lighter General Electric GEnx, which is all about simplicity and less maintenance. It's basically two different philosophies aiming for the exact same goal. If you're an airline, you are always looking to cut costs, and engine maintenance is a huge one. That's why this quote is so important. Time on wing is the key metric here. If your engine can stay on the plane longer without needing a super expensive overhaul, you're going to save a ton of money.
So, the A350 is the king of range, but the 787 offers engine choices that might mean more reliability and lower maintenance costs.
And that leads us perfectly into round 3, the airline's choice. Because it's not just about which plane is better on paper, it's about which one is the right piece in a global chess match. So, let's talk money. Which one is cheaper to buy? At first glance, it looks like Boeing has the edge. The popular 787-9 has a list price of around $292 million. That's quite a bit less than its direct competitor, the A350-900. But, as any airline will tell you, the sticker price is only one part of the story. Because when you look at the cost to actually fly the plane on a per-seat basis, things get interesting. The A350-900 can actually be cheaper to operate than the 787-9. So, what's more important, a lower upfront price or lower running costs over the next 20 years? That's the billion-dollar question every airline has to answer. And really, it all comes down to strategy. Think of the A350 as the marathon runner. It's perfect for those flagship, super high-demand routes that cross the globe. The 787, on the other hand, is more of a versatile specialist. It's amazing at profitably connecting smaller cities on what the industry calls long and thin routes. Think Austin to London. Routes that can never support a giant jet like the 747. All right, after 3 intense rounds, it is time for the final verdict. We've seen that the A350 is more comfortable and flies farther, while the 787 is cheaper to buy and more versatile for opening new routes. So who is the ultimate winner here? Okay, if you're flying in economy, the winner is pretty clear. It's the Airbus A350. That extra inch of seat width and the super quiet cabin just make it a more comfortable experience on a really long flight. But if you're an airline looking for a jack-of-all-trades, the Boeing 787 is your plane. Its efficiency lets airlines open up brand-new non-stop routes between smaller cities, and that has fundamentally changed how we travel the world. And finally, when it comes to going the distance, there is only one king, the Airbus A350. Its unmatched range puts it in a class all by itself, connecting cities that used to feel like they were on different planets. So there you have it. It's really a split decision. Each plane is a champion in its own way, just built for a different kind of mission. Now that you know what a difference 1 inch of seat width or 1,000 miles of range can make, I've got a question for you. The next time you book a long flight, are you going to check what kind of plane you'll be on? I'd love to know what you think.